But yeah, that's not just me, because throughout my career, I've really wanted to be an advocate for diversity and inclusivity, not just women in science, but all minorities, really, all sort of underrepresented groups. And so I've done various things sort of to try and do that. I've been involved in mentoring women. I've also been mentored myself. So I've been involved in the early days of 500 Women Scientists in the sort of the main leadership team. I've also been involved in a committee in the UK. There's something that's called Athena Swan, and actually universities can get an accreditation for how family and women friendly they are. So I've been involved in the committee for my university for that. I've been a pod coordinator, 500 Women Scientists pod coordinator for the group in Manchester. And I've also started a list of women in soil science that people can add their name to, and that's really to make it easier for people who are looking for speakers, for example, or reviewers, to make it easier to find women with expertise in soil science. And that's actually working quite well. So I just wanted to ask you a question, really, to start this discussion. So this is a polling question, which I'm sure you've done before. So I just want to ask you, do you hold me in lower esteem than you do male professors, or do you hold me in lower esteem than sort of my male colleagues that you get taught by, or do you sort of treat me differently than my male colleagues? So I will actually just make this a little bit bigger. So here in the bottom right of the screen, you can see tutorial fdv.reageer.tv, and if you go there on your phone, you can actually vote. So I'll just give you a minute. And we should be able to see.
For me, the link is not visible. Could you post a link in the chat?
It's not visible?
Well, for me, it's not. There's something in the...
Oh, let's see if I can go to the chat. Yeah, but then I'm going to, wait.
Could be my screen settings, but... Or you could...
I've already got 5 votes.
I'll type with you.
Sorry?
Or you could repeat and I will type straight away.
Wait. I can't even find that chat in my... It's TUTORIAL FDV.REAGEER.tv. But I mean, I have 10 votes now and they all say no, which is of course what I expected. Because why would you say yes, right? I think 90% of you are women anyway. So, okay, so you don't, right? You think you treat me exactly the same as my male colleagues. However, chances are that you actually do see me differently and treat me differently, even though 90% of you are women. Because actually, when students email female professors or female teachers, they are far less likely to start with doctor or professor. They're much more likely to start with Mrs. or Miss. Female professors are less likely to be addressed by their title, professor or doctor, than men in the media and at conferences. Male scientists are more likely to be addressed by their last name, and female scientists are more likely to be addressed by their first name. And this is just an example. And this is a very stark example, because this was actually in the same program, an interview on BBC Breakfast. And this is the female professor who is tweeting it. And you can see here very clearly that both these people are professors in the same program on the same topic. And here you can see that they address the man as professor and the woman as Claire Hopkins. So this is a case where the woman is treated very differently. But actually also in the Netherlands, in Dutch tweets, women are far more frequently addressed by their first name than men, and men are more frequently addressed by their last name. And this is actually from a very recent article from the Groene Amsterdammer, which I would really also recommend you read. It's mostly focused on politicians, actually. It's a very interesting and eye-opening article. It came out last week. And women are treated differently in other ways. And unfortunately, that's especially noticeable on Twitter, where there are a lot of trolls and a lot of attacks, and women are far, far, far more targeted than men, but they also get other threats, and sometimes they actually have to fear for their lives. And this, again, is far more prevalent in, well, in this case, for female climate scientists. So in academia, this is all evidenced by studies and data. So this is just a very sort of brief snapshot of things. So in academia, it's been shown that male students underestimate the academic performance of their female peers. Female teachers get lower student evaluations than male teachers. And with the same CV, male applicants are being seen as more competent and get hired and invited for interviews more frequently. And male researchers far more often publish with male collaborators, male colleagues, than they do with female collaborators. And women publish less frequently in the top journals as a senior author. And this is, again, a graph that came out. Actually, I just saw this today. And this is just summarizing how unequal science is. And this is for the field of ecology specifically. But here you can see that really publications in the field of ecology and conservation, they are dominated by men, and they are dominated by a very, very small number of countries. And this is a number of countries from the north and from Western parts of the world. So of all publications, these top publications, only 11% of the authors are women. And 87% of these top publishing authors are from 10 countries. So this is how unequal ecology is. And this is a graph that I saw today, and I thought I have to show you this. But even when men and women who are working in academia have a child, this really, really negatively impacts the woman's career. And you can see this here in this graph. This is actually from a study in Finland. So the red line is when men and women have a baby. You can see that nothing changes for the men. And you can see here a really, really steep decline in gross earnings in this time for the women. And so this is then the gap, the child penalty in that gray line. And this is, again, this is a very recent paper. This is actually from last month. And this is again showing the sort of the child gap in academia for different fields. So you can see here computer science, business and history. There's no ecology, unfortunately. And this inset is the difference between number of publications between men and women when they're not parents. And you can see there is a gap here and also here, not so much here. But you can see that a gap between the difference between men and women in productivity is much, much larger when they have children. So women are more negatively impacted when they have children in their careers. So just one thing that I really want to set straight here is that we're talking about women in science now, we're talking about feminism, we're talking about International Women's Day, but we really need to see this also as part of a bigger picture. And wherever I say that women are disadvantaged or less represented, it's very, very important to actually also think about intersectionality. So if you are a woman and you are also black, then you can sort of multiply the disadvantage that these people have. So it's very important to not just see this from a male-female perspective, and also actually to not just think in binary genders, because clearly people who don't conform to male or female, or people who are gay or whatever, and this all sort of adds up to actually cascading less representation and less inclusion of these people. So that's just something that I really want to highlight here. So those who are most impacted by gender-based violence, gender inequalities, are also the most impoverished and marginalized Black and brown women, Indigenous women, women in rural areas. So this is very important to realize that we also need to think about this. So we need to think intersectional and not just highlight the difference between men and women, but think about all underrepresented groups. So now I'm going to narrow it down a little bit to the Netherlands and to our specific field. So this is just a graph showing the percentage of female researchers of total researchers in Europe. And you can see here that the Netherlands is bottom of the list with less than 26%. Women also earn less than men. And again, you can see that the Netherlands is not doing particularly well. And actually that this gender pay gap, which is the percentage that women earn less in the same position, it's actually worse, 25% in scientific research and development than it is in the total economy. So we're not actually doing very well in academia and in science. And this is from the Dutch sort of Federation of Female Professors. And every year they publish a report where they quantify the proportion of female professors, but also all other career stages in academia in the Netherlands. And you can here very clearly see, this is the most recent data. This was from the 9th of December last year. You can see that while actually, when we're talking about students, this is undergraduate students, so bachelor students, it's pretty much 50-50. So there are as many women as there are men. When we're going to graduates or masters, it's actually pretty much the same. There are actually slightly more women. And PhD candidates, we start to see a shift in the balance. So here actually men are starting to dominate. And then when we go to female professors, to full professors, you can see that really in the Netherlands, only 24% is female. So as you go up that academic career ladder, really women are becoming less and less represented. And earth sciences is actually one of the least diverse fields in academia, in science. And this is a graph from the situation in America. This is on the left, you can see data from the American Geosciences Institute. And this just shows the percentage of women per occupation. And then here you can see the US population, it's pretty much 50-50, it's probably 51% women. And then all occupations is the black line. Life sciences is not actually doing too bad, as you can see here, but then here's environmental sciences and geosciences. And that's actually not doing very well at all when you compare it to life sciences. And also, again, for earth sciences, when you look at the distribution of the different sort of steps in an academic career, I mean, look at that. It's only 8% full professor. It's not a good picture. And actually, particularly in earth sciences and in sort of disciplines that have lots of field work, they can be particularly challenging for women and other minorities, people with disabilities or racial and ethnic minorities, because in a lot of cases, these fieldwork situations, they're sort of a bit sort of these sort of men's networks, and sometimes they're actually even in unsafe countries. So these conditions actually make it, make it very challenging to get that equal representation, because people can really sometimes feel excluded or don't feel very welcome. So soil science is even, it's a subset of earth sciences. And again, for soil sciences, we can see the same pattern in soil sciences. I mean, it's really, really quite a male-dominated field historically, as you can see here from these Dutch Soil Science Society pictures. It's getting better. I'm sure we're in 2021 now. But again, here you can see that masters, I mean, there's even a higher representation of women under master students, still PhD students. But then when we look at faculty, so that's people with a permanent contract, it's only 24% in the soil sciences. And again, that of all those faculty positions, obviously they're the fewest for professors, the smallest proportion of female under the full professors. Now, I've also had a look at Master's Earth Sciences, and again, as those graphs already shown, it's pretty much a 50-50 distribution. Actually, this year there's even more women than men. So that's not where the problem lies. The problem is further up this career ladder. So I want to sort of really highlight in this talk, I've given you these numbers. So you've seen these numbers. At this point in your career, actually, it's pretty much 50-50. Like your class, there are even more women than men. And you are actually the future of these fields. So I really feel that you can change things. And these are sort of the tips that I want to sort of mention to you, and I'm hoping we can have a discussion about these later. So I think the first thing is that you need to be aware of your own bias. Everyone has bias. I have bias. And to really know and to really sort of acknowledge that you do have that bias, I would actually suggest you take this implicit bias test that you can find. It's a Harvard website, and the link is here. It's really insightful. There are various tests that you can take. So for this one, you can take the gender and science test. It's very insightful. But also to call out sexism when you see it. And I say this particularly to the men. I realize that there aren't that many present today in this session, but really, when you see sexism, just say something. And also, educate yourself. Well, I've just shown you all these numbers, but really educate yourself. What is happening? What are the numbers? Don't expect women to educate you. And I'm particularly saying that to the men, actually. So there is a problem. Don't ignore it. Don't say that it's not there. Be an advocate for equality wherever you can, whenever you can. Think about this. Think why you are doing things. Think what you can do to make things better. Are you really saying that because that's what you think? Or are you maybe saying something because that's your bias talking? Step back and see what am I actually saying? What am I doing? And am I really objective, sorry. But one very important one is don't try to fix women. Women are not doing anything wrong. The system is wrong. It's the system that's wrong. So we don't need to try and fix women. We don't need to tell women to do this and to do that, or not to do this or not to do that, to wear a suit, to wear heels, to not wear heels, to raise their voice, to not raise their voice. Just don't try to fix women. Fix the system. And another thing that you can do is make a pledge on social media today, because there's a big social media campaign on International Women's Day. And what you can do to help the representation of women and to fight inequalities is to celebrate women's achievements when and where they happen, to raise awareness against bias whenever you can, and to take action for equality, and to make a pledge that you will challenge people when you see sexism. So that's really everything I wanted to say, and I'm actually very curious about your questions. Obviously, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'd also really like to hear your thoughts on what we can do to make this a more equal world.